one.
For those who don't know, you know, we got Izzy, we got Owl of Archives, we got the Mint God, and we got your guy here, Hooks. All right, discussing all things Marvel, answering questions from the street.
Stuff I noticed in the Multiverse of Madness movie.
Bingo, because I got questions for that. Let's go. What did you notice, big bro?
Okay, the dream walking spell that was used. Okay. It's a combination of the astral projection spell and the dimensional aperture spell. Okay, it's one of the things that the ancient one in the comics, the ancient one had taught Strange early on, but Wanda didn't really learn in the comics. Wanda didn't really learn it, even though Agatha Harkness did know those spells.
Right.
So my thinking is they probably assumed that she eventually learned it because she did for a time become an apprentice to Strange. So it kind of fits. It's a bit of a stretch, but it kind of fits. I like how they did it. But here's the thing. It's a great way to introduce Nightmare into the MCU.
That's a beautiful way to do it. But there's certain people that question that because they say that because Disney is merged with Marvel, these are some questions. That's why I haven't said.
Yep.
Because Disney's merged with Marvel, that there is a situation, because, you know, Marvel's not going to really go out their way to show anything that represents the devil. How do y'all feel about that one particularly? Because we should have saw Mephisto by now, technically, and that's what that's what they're leaning on. Not to mention, you know, go ahead, hit me.
Okay, in the second Ghost Rider movie, we saw Mephisto. Peter Fonda plays the role of Mephisto.
But wasn't that with a Fox? Wasn't that Fox's movie? That wasn't Disney.
That was Fox's movie, but technically, it's part of the greater MCU multiverse. Just like the first three Blade movies are part of the greater MCU multiverse.
Wait. We saw what? When? Where?
Yeah. Bring it back. Let's do this.
All right. The second Ghost Rider movie. Okay?
That's when he caught the blue flame, right?
I believe it's the one with Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze.
Well, yeah, he was on in two of them, but there's one where he gained this blue flame.
No, the first. I'm sorry, it was the first Ghost Rider movie.
Okay, good.
Peter Fonda plays as Mephisto.
He plays as Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
He does not say his name is Mephisto. He says.
But we know that Mephisto is just short for Mephistopheles, and we know that Marvel in the source books actually confirmed that Mephistopheles is one of the names that he goes by. So, but what I liked is they stuck to the theme that while Mephisto is on the prime material plane in the Earth dimension, he doesn't assume his true form. He assumes like a more human-looking form. Okay, it was a common theme in Daredevil, in the John Romita Senior or Junior run of Daredevil Volume 1. There's a common theme in a couple other storylines. So it's interesting where the writers for the MCU related movies or shows are going to take it further in the next phases. I love what they did, how they included Zombie Strange.
Wait,
not too tough.
Hold on. Before, I don't want you to go too far off the Mephisto situation, because Mephisto exists in the actual true MCU.
Yeah.
He was listed in paperwork that Nick Cage had. Samuel Jackson, Nick Cage. I believe it was in First Avenger, or it was either First Avenger or it was the Avengers first movie. And it shows that there's SHIELD paperwork showing that Mephisto was being used as a consultant
Well,
about
yeah, I
the
was about to include that. We
about
in the comics,
Ooh.
Shield has a division called, it's their supernatural and paranormal division, which
Thank
was founded by three people: Rom the Space Knight, who's unfortunately no longer canon, mostly no longer canon to Marvel. Professor X and Doctor Strange. Later on, Blade becomes a leader of that division, but they did have certain contractors with extra dimensional contacts, and unfortunately, one of those contacts happened to be Mephisto. So I'm not surprised that the writers included that little tidbit in whatever script that they had.
right. So we went from Nightmare to Mephisto being
Yes.
being in there, and you know, I just wanted to like the whole Nightmare thing, because I know we're gonna probably come back to it, but just because you started off with that, one of my biggest theories that I haven't seen anybody say it before me, and I still haven't seen anybody say it that I could even extend a conversation to besides us, is
Drop it.
is the dream walking spell being used. As far as I'm concerned, it was used at the mid tag scene at the end of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Our 616 Doctor Strange would never fix that watch. He would never fix that watch. Reason was a symbol for himself, his broken self, and his sacrifice that he made to become Doctor Strange. It's been documented in the first Doctor Strange, because he could have fixed that watch then. Like he could have fixed his hands. And the whole point of it was, the Ancient One said, yeah, you could fix your hands, but what a loss it would be for us, because you'd be using your power in vain instead of others. And the reality is that this world, this universe is not all about you. And that was a lesson that he took to heart in the first Doctor Strange. Then there was the What If series, where you saw the significance of the watch. There's no way in the world that 616 Strange is fixing that watch. So when we looked into that scene, I do not believe we were looking at our Doctor Strange. I believe we were looking at a multiversal Doctor Strange. And I believe that the Doctor Strange from
that was probably me,
that was dying or dead from the incursion that fell on the gate, who was still alive when that Christine Palmer, 838, excuse me, 838. Was it 838 Strange? No, it wasn't 838 Strange, because they went through a gate. We never got the designation of that universe. All we know is that it was going through an incursion. But he fell through the gate. Christine Palmer went to see if he was alive, and the third eye opened. All his eyes open, right? Scared the mess out of everybody. I believe that Strange did not die. That Strange then dreamwalked into the Strange who fixed the watch. And that's all we saw of that. And then we were confused, because then we got another scene, another tag scene, where our Doctor Strange finally meets Clea. And he's comfortable with his third eye. And we're all confused. I don't think anybody caught that right there was the foreshadowing of the two universes that are going to be experiencing the incursions going into the wars.
I didn't catch that either.
There is actually something pointing that out. Okay, in the comics, including the What If Volume 1, Volume 2, and so forth, there is a spell that's been used that Strange himself has used called Dual Persona. Okay, it literally temporarily merges your consciousness with those of other versions of yourself, no matter what reality they're from. They could be from the past, from the present, from the future, from another universe, from another alternate timeline, and so forth. Okay,
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if a different Strange used that spell to connect himself with the designated 616 Strange in that movie. Okay, so that would lend credence to your theory on that one.
Well, I don't think that's what they're doing. I think that Michael Waldron, as the writer, said he basically makes things very, very simple as possible for the casual viewer. I think that they established dreamwalking, which I do agree is a mixture of those spells that you're talking about. I don't think that go into, like I got the Book of Ashanti here, right? I don't think they're going to go into trying to explain, Watum and all of these other things, right? I think that they're just going to keep it as simple as they can for casuals, but for us, giving us those little treats so that we can talk about it on another level. So really, Strange, 616 Strange manipulated and held the Darkhold. The incursion.
You said 616 Strange manipulated and held the Darkhold.
Strange manipulated the Darkhold.
Oh, you mean with the dreamwalking thing.
His multiversal dead self.
That was wild.
Right? So you can't manipulate the Darkhold without it having an effect on you. And we already saw the effect that it had on the Doctor Strange in that lost the incursion, right?
Yeah.
He had a third eye. So what's to say, as far as I'm concerned, I'm thinking that Strange got the third eye because in one way, shape, or form, that's one of the side effects of Doctor Strange manipulating the Darkhold. But it doesn't have to be the only one, right?
All right, so put it like this. I have another. I love that theory, and I need the answers for another questions from the street. Okay. Now, one of the questions that we have is related to Doctor Strange. Someone stated, when did Doctor Strange become so dark? They were relating this to the fact that in the beginning of the movie, and I was kind of thrown off by this too. I know that this was their first go at a horror movie, but in the beginning of the movie, you see Doctor Strange as he's fighting Gargantos. He's using some pretty demonic looking things like that weird head that came out of nowhere, ate something, those demonic hands that pulled out the joint and stabbed him in the eye. It was like, these were powers he never shown before. So I could get that he learned them along the way. But this was the question from the street. When did he become so dark? Those magic powers he was using. Okay,
those spells are actually in the Book of Ashanti. Those hands, those clawed hands or whatever, those are the if I recall correctly, the hoary hands of Haga, who's a member of Ashanti.
You said they're in the Book of Ashanti, what he did?
Yeah, they're in the Book of Ashanti. Now, I
have a pause on that real quick.
Okay.
If these spells that you're about to speak of are in the Book of Ashanti, which at that point we realized when he sat down with America Chavez in that cafe, he had no clue the Book of Ashanti was real. So if they're only in the Book of Ashanti, that's what's bothering me at this point. How was he able to perform them?
Okay. The book spells from the Book of Ashanti, like in the case of the Darkhold, were actually copied or onto different forms of recording. Okay, some of them were etched, on stone, just like what happened. What happened with the Darkhold. Some of them were audio recorded. In the comics, S.H.I.E.L.D. actually has all audio recordings of both spells from the Darkhold and spells from the Book of Ashanti. Some of them were written in scrolls, even during the time of Conan, during the Hyborian Age. Okay, as a matter of fact, the original written copies of the Darkhold were on scrolls written before Conan was even born. So, that all fits in.
Okay.
So
now,
Scarlet Witch in the Book of Ashanti. You know what I mean?
What did you say about Scarlet Witch again?
Scarlet Witch is also mentioned in the Book of Ashanti. Because you got to understand, spells are shared as they're learned, and then they're modified. You know, that's just the way sorcery and magic works in Marvel. So the Darkhold wasn't written on paper first. The Darkhold was written on walls, and then it was transcribed into flesh that was saved as scrolls, and then those spells got copied and put into different magical tomes and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't as far as when Doctor Strange learned, to answer the question specifically, he never stops learning. That's what we saw we're talking about MCU Doctor Strange, right? We're not talking about comic book Doctor Strange, even though the inspiration comes from there. You can just look at the movie and see Doctor Strange was learning in his astral form. He never stopped studying. Even when he's sleeping, he's still studying. And he has a photographic memory, so that's why he learned so fast. He became a master of the mystic arts faster than most sorcerers did. Yeah. So, you know, when he learned, he never stopped learning.
All right. So that answers that. And since you mentioned it, this would be my last question for Multiverse of Madness, related from questions from the street. Now, we saw in WandaVision that Wanda was able to overcome the power of Harkness, Agatha, due to the fact that once she found out, when she was trapped, that once a witch casts runes around you, then you're not able to be powerful within the barrier of those runes. That's how Scarlet Witch, as she was looking like she was throwing missing fire bolts at her, they were actually creating runes that circle Agatha, which actually helped to get that full-blown last-minute transition into what we know now as our Scarlet Witch. Now, the question behind this was, if this is actual evidence, why didn't, just to stop her earlier, why didn't Doctor Strange create runes around her, and that's how they could have defeated her early? Why wasn't that one of the moves?
Okay, one, Strange had most likely Strange hadn't learned rune casting at the time. Okay,
so he knew books of Ashanti stuff, but didn't know rune casting.
Yeah, witches learn rune casting at an early age. Okay, and the funny thing is, no Asgardian spellcasters from the Norse mythology, okay, as well as shamans from the Norse mythology, actually learn rune casting. It's a talent called runesmithing. Loki is like one of the best runesmiths that Marvel ever has. Okay, another one, surprisingly, Thor knows rune casting. Okay, but the MCU Thor is never shown using it, which is sad.
Okay.
Odin, when he was looking for trying to gain wisdom, at least in the comics, and basically sacrifice his eye, that's when he eventually learns rune casting. Okay. Another thing, Wakandan shamans know rune casting. They used certain brands as punishment, runes of punishment, and we actually see one of those brands on Ulysses' claw. Okay.
What, during Black Panther?
Yeah, we actually see the brand. Not during Black Panther. It was in the Ultron movie, the Avengers Age of Ultron movie. Yeah, where he says, "Oh, it came at great cost," and you see him touching his neck, I guess. Atlanteans, which I hope they include in the next Black Panther movie. Atlanteans
Me
were
too.
very notorious for using rune magic. Okay, very notorious. But they specialize in anti-magic runes. So imagine if, and the only one of the Shield contractors was Jennifer Kale, who's one of the only humans.
He's speaking now.
I know, but I'm just saying, don't be surprised if she shows up if they decide to include her in that division in the MCU. She's one of the only humans that knows the anti-magic rune casting spells from Atlantis before it sank. Another one that you might
you're going too far. You're going too far
okay.
deep.
Yeah. All right, okay.
We got to stay on track, right? The question is, why didn't Strange put runes around Wanda? And the question,
he didn't know him.
The answer, we don't know what he knows, but what we do know is what Wanda knows. And Wanda has already figured out how to put runes around a planet. So there is no way
you're not beating that.
Strange to out-rune the Scarlet Witch. That would have been a ridiculous. That would have been something that ruined the movie for me if he did that.
Yeah. Did you notice something when Wanda was fighting Harkness? She wasn't just making her own runes; she was replacing Harkness's runes. Exactly. So that tells me that she knows both the erase and write spells, and she modified them so that she doesn't need like a physical medium.
She manipulates. So the Scarlet Witch manipulates reality now. Yeah. So that goes beyond sorcery. That goes beyond witchcraft. It's already been set up and explained that the Scarlet Witch is more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So in order to beat the Scarlet Witch, they did it right. As far as I'm concerned, actually, this movie actually raised my level of respect for Michael Waldron as a screenwriter and a showrunner, because he didn't take the easy way out. That would have been the easy way out. The most logical way for someone to beat the Scarlet Witch is for her to beat herself. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And that's exactly what they did. They exposed her. They put a mirror in front of her.
Yep.
Through the eyes of the things that she treasured most. That was, to me, that's the only way for them to win. You know what I'm saying? Her looking at it through the eyes of Billy and Tommy. So, there's just no runes. Also, just remember, if you want to look at the context of the movie, runes were being used on Gargantos.
Yep.
Really supposed to have been Shumagorath, which I'm glad it wasn't, because there's no way that Shumagorath could have got beaten so easily. That's just ridiculous. But, there were runes actually on Gargantos. So that meant that Wanda was manipulating runes. And it's also, on top of that, I believe that same creature that was chasing Defender Strange in America in the beginning of the movie, in what I believe was the nexus of all realities. They called it
Moon Knight.
Huh?
It was Moon Knight.
What are you talking about? No. Creature. You're bugging. I don't know. I think
y'all gotta learn jokes, man. Y'all gotta take the edge off, man. Everybody was serious.
No, that wasn't a good joke. But anyway, the monster in the beginning of the movie, I believe, was the same monster that ended up being Gargantos. I think that for some reason, the runes that were put on that creature changed its appearance once it came into the 616.
Yeah.
Because we remember that monster also went through the portal with the dead Doctor Strange, as America Chavez, and Wong mentioned to Strange what were those markings on that creature, and they said runes. So that means that Wanda, Scarlet Witch, had it. So if you go back to the movie, you'll see the runes written on Gargantos, right? Wanda has the power to write runes interdimensionally, multiversally.
Mm.
There's no way you're beating her at that game. You know what I'm saying?
There's actually one person that did it, but needed a willing subject. Dormammu, and we find that out. We find that out in the first Doctor Strange movie. That's when Strange sees the first rune that he encounters. Yeah.
Those are runes. The marks of Dormammu are runes.
So it makes sense that Clea eventually is included.
What are those called? The faceless ones?
What do you mean?
The ones?
You mean the mindless ones? The mindless ones?
No. Like what's Mad's character in Doctor Strange? I forgot already. Like I can't even.
Caecilius.
Caecilius' followers turned into the faceless ones at the end of the movie. Is it that?
I think it's more the mindless ones.
The mindless ones, okay.
Because the mindless ones have no face. All you see is the eye.
Right. Mindless. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
And the thing is, Dormammu's race is the 14. They're basically living sources of eldritch energy. So Clea, who's half 14, half dark dimension version of a human, she's also basically a living energy source.
Right.
So it makes sense that if Strange remembers that M thing, he could use it, but instead of linking it to Dormammu, he can link it to to Clea.
We'll see. I mean, they're going into the dark dimension at the end of the movie, so we'll see. And he doesn't have the time stone this time, so.